What we discovered in the last video was the young me had spotted that missing link and put a link wire in better than the old me had remembered taking that link wire out. So in the last video I just linked it across on the top of the chips, which wasn't ideal. So now, just neatening it all up, I'm going to put it on the bottom. I'm replacing them chips anyway, but them with 4264s rather than 4164s. Again, as I say, same chip, but them other ones are for a future project. I got them for an Atari XE that I need to sort out at some point in the future on this channel. So what I'll do, I'll just desolder that link wire. For now, I'm just putting this one on the bottom. Gonna remove them chips so they're ready for their next life in another computer. Also just changing the capacitor as well to get rid of that big capacitor cluster that I did last time. So now I've got a nice looking single capacitor rather than a cluster of 4 capacitors all kind of bodged together. So yeah, that'll look a lot neater now. First time I've used this gun, and I got to say they are definitely a worthwhile investment. A little bit messy sometimes to clean afterwards, but definitely a lot more efficient than trying to do it with braid or to try and do it with the old vacuum, the mechanical kind of solder suckers that I've used previously. Let's just chop them legs off of the capacitor. So I'm just going to test this new memory. This is the 4264. This is a new old stock. And again, the only thing you got to bear in mind when you're doing this, the memory that's in the Commodore 64 is 150 nanosecond memory. So as long as them chips are that or lower, these are 100 nanoseconds. So on the side of the chip, you'll see it will say 4264 and then a dash, and then it'll be 10, 15, but you can get 20. So 20s would probably be no good, they'll be a little bit too slow. You can go lower than 150 nanoseconds, but not higher. So these 10s will be perfect for this. Won't add any speed improvement. Just gonna power it up now, make sure I'm happy with everything. Make sure I haven't introduced any new faults. All looking good. So the other thing I found in the last one as well was my SID chip had died. So I managed to find this on eBay. I think it was around £30, and yeah, it's a genuine replacement for this particular model. Again, very lucky to get that. So if I couldn't have done that, I was just going to go for probably the ARM SID. That one seems to... Yep, sounding perfect. Took that little green sticker off. Time to remove this again. Now to address this keyboard. So as you've seen on previous videos, it's missing a couple of keys here, so time to replace them. Knock the old ones out. Just got to unscrew the back of the keyboard. Just removing all the screws from the back. And when it comes to the shift lock key, just got to desolder that. So I'm just going to use the desoldering tool quickly to remove them 2 legs from it. Yep, otherwise nothing's coming apart at all. Leg out. Just remove that. It doesn't look too bad condition wise. So now I just got to remove them keys. So I'm missing 7, 8, 9 and the B key on the keyboard, and I found a really handy site called something like retropolian.co.uk. So I went on eBay to try and find some keys, and just the prices were horrendous. It was like £5 a key. What they do on their website, so it's Commodore spares, Sinclair spares, a few different other computers. But like these keys, I think they were like they've got different grades as well, different models again. So I went for the bread bin grey keys, because obviously you see the right hand side keys are grey keys. I think these were something like £1.50 each, and these were sort of the highest level, and not necessarily got every single key, because obviously this is keys taken from old computers. But again, they have a list of all the keys that they have currently available. You might not be able to find them in the particular condition you want them to, but the way I see it, it's better to have a key on there rather than have no key at all. So again, and I'm assuming they're going to get, you know, as time goes on, they'll replace other keys, and you know, other keys will come in stock, other keys will go out of stock. Now just pulling these apart, I don't know if you saw that there, that was a little bit difficult. Surprisingly, that really holds on together quite well. So you can see that I'll just spread it up a bit just to get them apart. Just again, I don't want to put too much pressure on it and end up snapping these keys straight away. Also, where someone has tried to glue these in the past, there's like a little bit of residue in there, so when I put that key in, I could feel it was sort of dragging a little bit. So just cleaning the hole out just to make it a bit easier, so it will go through smoother. Again, if you're doing this and your keyboards, it's just a clean snap, then you won't have to do this part. It's only if someone's had a go at trying to glue it all back together again and put a load of glue in the hole. So just get that one in there, and then the spring goes on the top, followed by the key. Just getting key 8 in there now, and finally just key 9. Yeah, just have a look at the rubber underneath as well. So if you look, these are the original rubbers. They seem to have like a bit of a red kind of tint to them, whereas these new ones, I've got these replacements, have a bit of a yellow tint. Doesn't make any difference to them. I could have changed them over, but no one's going to see it, and everything seems to be working lovely anyway. And as you can see on the back there, you can't really notice it anywhere. It's only if you look very close you'll notice there is a slight difference in colour between the backs of some of them keys. Just thought I'd just clean this off with some isopropyl alcohol, just to make sure it's all nice and making a good contact. Again, you can see there's no dirt at all on that cloth. Put my shift lock key back in. Put some screws around it first just to make sure I'm holding it in the right position before I solder. Now I'm happy there's enough screws around there. Just going to resolder that back on. Finish off putting all the screws in the back. Surprising actually how many little screws there are in this keyboard, but it does hold it nice and sturdy. Keyboard back in the case. So again, I seem to be missing a screw down the bottom here. I'll replace it at some point in the future, but I thought just having a quick kind of measure up, it looks like that side was a little bit longer, so I thought put that one on. So now hopefully this is the final part. Just connect up my keyboard and see how these keys work. Just making sure the polarity's right, so it's one, the red wire there goes to that one, and the black's in the middle. You can see on the front of the plug there it's marked up 1, and on the PCB it's marked up 1 as well. Again, get it round the wrong way, just the LED won't light up. It's not a big deal. So now the moment of truth. Let's see what we got. So I'm just going through testing all the keys. Now on the screen, this is what I was getting. So I've got my arrow key, I've got 1, 2, 3 not working, 4 not working, 5 is working, 6 is working, 7, 8. Plus minus. W isn't working, E isn't working, R is working, C is working, R is working. That's D. if you look, Z's not on there either.
Some keys working, some keys not.
Yeah, so as you can see there, some of the keys aren't working right. So I thought with that 8-in-1 dead test cartridge, I got all this other kit as well, which is a harness to basically test all the inputs and outputs. So I thought I'd give this a try, just see whether that'll give me any more information about what's failing. As you can see, it's quite comprehensive. Got things to test the joystick ports, test the serial port, test the tape, test the keyboard, and then just had to kind of work out what settings to put my dead test cartridge over to see if it will use that. So in the end, this is the one, looks like it is the correct one for it. So bearing in mind, again, I've never used this harness, I thought, well, I'll just see what the test comes out like on my known good Commodore 64, see what I get now. If you look, that take one's red at the moment, but it does go green in a second. Go. So I've got all green lights showing on the boards themselves. So again, I know this one keyboard works fine, everything works fine on it. So clearly I'm doing something wrong with that harness. So again, that's why I test it. Just see what I was getting on my good one. I've just swapped over the CIA chips from my good working Commodore 64 into this Commodore 64 just to see if that's the issue. So as I'm going through the keyboard, I can see I'm still having issues with the keys. So the problem is still the same keys playing up. I'm just making a note now of what keys are the ones that aren't responding. Just to see if there's a pattern to it or whether it is a case of there is an issue. Also tried the keyboard itself on my good working Commodore 64 just to make sure that was okay. And yeah, that worked fine. I was reading all the keys properly because again, there's just been a break in the cable from the keyboard to the motherboard. When I tried the CIA chips from this bad Commodore 64 in my good Commodore 64, everything's working correctly. The other issue I had was the down on the joystick was also not working. Pin number 2 is the down on the joystick port. As you can see in red, I've marked off PA1, and if you look, all them keys. So if you have a look there, that PA1 covers all them keys. So it looks like that particular chip, I'm not getting a connection through from the CIA chip, which is the U1 pin 3 of that particular CIA chip. So it's that first one, the one that's right next to the keyboard connector. going to keyboard pin 19, and it is all them keys that aren't working, so it looks like I've got a short there, or rather not a short. So I thought I'd just test out the theory. So this is my good Commodore 64, I'm trying it out on here. And as you can see, I'm getting a continuity between pin 3 of the chip and pin 19 of the keyboard. So here I'm getting nothing. There isn't a connection at all. So I thought I'd try it from pin 2 of the joystick port, and then just try it to the keyboard. So I'm getting a continuity there. So it looks like it is just pin 3 is not connecting properly. So just to update my drawing. Joystick port 2. Pin 2 on joystick port 2. I'm getting a connection between that and my keyboard pin 19. Other side, not so much. So what I decided to do, when I was originally I was just gonna put another link wire between pin 3, but when I tested it on the back of the PCB, I noticed I was getting a continuity between the back of the board. So when I went to solder a new wire on, I actually felt the pin wasn't going all the way through. So again, just wanted to double check it with that now removed. So remove the old chip socket. As you can see in the top left hand corner, the state it didn't want to come out without a fight. I used way too much solder on it, but again, just to make sure I had a good continuity on all the pins. So yeah, I've just put a new one in and just soldering it in now. And again, just going to check that continuity. One of the little pins fell out, but again, this time I've made sure I just checked everything over and over again just to make sure all the pins were making a good connection this time. So again, on the previous video, if I hadn't socketed this, chances are this would have worked fine. But again, I did want it socketed anyway, and it was good to test these chips to make sure they were good. And there you see I've got a continuity now between pin 3 and pin 19 on the keyboard. So just put the CIA chips back in, and these are the original CIA chips for this board. Very difficult to keep track of it sometimes, to make sure you kept the right ones in the right board. So now I just want to give it a test. Make sure we've got all the keys now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Zeros, pluses, minuses, pound signs. Return, that was a clear home. And just moving it down there. So got the full QWERTY. The reason why it's coming out so many times, you see, I'm just doing it properly now, just doing single taps. Before I was tapping the key a few times. Didn't need to, there was no problem with it, I was just making sure the key was responding correctly. So the other thing as well with that particular problem, the shift key wasn't working, the left shift key wasn't working, so again I'm pressing that to get the kind of spades and all the other various different symbols, diamonds, again just to make sure that's all working correctly, and it is, because that was off of that same particular bus address, that PA1. So now I'm happy with all that, just doing the final little fixes. So again, where I took this off, I didn't put any heatsink compound on here, so I'm just bending it back quickly, just put some heatsink compound, make sure it's got a good thermal contact. And again, when you're using this thermal paste, don't think more is better. You just literally want a skim of it. If you put too much on, it acts as an insulator and it will have the exact opposite effect. All the heat will just stay, it won't transfer it properly. So again, when I'm doing it on the top of this VIC-2 chip, just screwing down the board first. Just get all that down. Just cleaning off the old stuff off the top. So it's just applying some more thermal paste here. And again, just literally a little skim of it. So just don't go crazy with it. It does get on your fingers and goes everywhere, but I don't know why I always find it easier to just put it on my finger and smear it that way. And then finally the RF modulator. Again, where I've tried to lift it up in the past, it looks like, and I've just bent the case because it's soldered on there. So I'm just going to remove that little bit of solder to take it off. Just get it off there. Okay, and I just want to bend this lid back into shape again. Put it back on and then just solder it back down again. And that's it. I'm happy with that. Now just put it back on. And again, from that same website, bought the screws as well for the case because they were missing. So that's it, we're all good. And when I think about what it used to look like, so this is what I started with, and this is what I got now. I'm just going to try the old Kung Fu flash out on it. Just try some games out. Just to test my F keys as well. So this particular crack for Creatures 2, as you can see, it uses all the F keys, and pressing the shift takes you, so it's F1, F3, F5, F7, and then you press the shift key, you get F2, F4, F6, F8. Trying out some Buggy Boy now. You can hear that SID chip as well, working nicely. I think that's a successful job. Finally I can start using my old Commodore 64 again. Unfortunately it's game over for the 6582, that memory and them keys, they are had it, not going to be used again.